Hey there, fellow wanderers, and welcome back to the Wandering Gypsy RV Life Podcast. I'm your host, Stan Cromlish, coming to you from Birdie B here at beautiful Kickback Ranch and Event Center in Raymer, Alabama. The coffee's hot, the road is stretched out ahead of us, and today we're going to talk about something that, for the last 3 weeks, has been living completely rent-free in my head. A roof leak. Now, if you've listened to last week's episode, you might remember I talked a little bit about mental health and about what happens when life starts stacking up faster than you expected. The knee had decided it was staging a full-on protest. The FRVA International Convention in Perry, Georgia was getting closer by the day. There were financial pressures that come with building something new. And somewhere in the background of all of that was this stubborn little roof leak that refused to cooperate. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a waterfall pouring into the coach. It was just enough moisture showing up in a place where moisture definitely should not be. And if you've owned an RV for more than about 15 minutes, you already know how that story usually begins. You climb up on the roof. You start inspecting everything. You look at the seams, the vents, the antennas, the skylights, the wire entries, the edges of sealant lines, and somewhere along the way, you convince yourself you've found the culprit. You clean the area. You apply fresh sealant. You step back, admire your work, and then you wait for the next rainstorm to prove you right. And when the rain finally comes, you grab a flashlight, you check your test spot, and hope the problem is gone. Well, this particular leak and I developed a relationship because that process didn't happen once. It happened 4 different times. Each trip up the ladder started with the same thought. All right, this time I found it. And each time the rain came back around, the paper towel test told a different story. Still leaking. Now here's the interesting thing about a small leak. The water itself usually isn't the biggest problem. What really gets you is the mental space it occupies. Once you know it's there, it starts living quietly in the back of your mind. Every time the sky gets dark, you think about it. Every time the wind picks up, you think about it. Every time you walk past the spot inside the coach, you find yourself listening, just in case there's another drip, drip, drip. And before long, that tiny little issue is taking up way more headspace than it deserves. That's exactly what happened here. This leak had been living rent-free in my brain for about 3 weeks. Now, like most RV owners, the first thing I did was go after it myself. I climbed up there, started inspecting everything carefully, and eventually found the spot that looked suspicious. It was a wire entry plate where a couple of cables passed through the roof into the coach. When I got into it, I stripped all the old sealant off the plate completely, cleaned the surface properly, tightened a screw that gotten a little wallowed out over time, and resealed the whole area. In other words, I did what most RV owners would do. I tackled the repair myself and felt pretty confident that I had found the source of the problem. But even after doing all that work, the leak still showed up when the rain came. At that point, it was clear the issue was somewhere in that area, but it was stubborn enough that it needed another set of experienced eyes. So I did what a lot of Tiffin owners eventually do when something just doesn't quite add up. I drove over to Golden, Mississippi to see Tony at Precision RV. Now, if you've spent any time around Red Bay, Belmont, or Golden, you already know the reputation these craftsmen have. Many of them spent years building these coaches at Tiffin, and they know them inside and out. Tony took a look at what I had already done, confirmed we were in the right neighborhood and with the repair. Then he went to work making absolutely certain that leak was never going to bother anyone again. And when I say he went to work, I mean he went to work, because the final solution to this 3-week saga came in the form of 7 tubes of sealant. Yes, 7. Not 1, not 2, 7 full tubes of CSL applied around that wire plate, like we were sealing up the Hoover Dam. By the time Tony finished, that plate looked like it had been embedded in a glacier. Sealant around it, sealant under it, sealant over the screws, and flowing out around the edges like icing on a cake. And I'll say this with complete honesty: I pity the next technician who ever has to add another wire through that plate. Because removing that thing now is going to require either divine intervention or a demolition permit. But you know what? The water test came, and for the first time in 3 weeks, nothing dry. No drip, no damp paper towel, no mysterious moisture showing up where it shouldn't be. Just dry. And the moment that happened, something else happened too. My brain got quiet, because that little problem that had been sitting in the back of my mind every day for 3 weeks was finally gone. Small problems have a funny way of creating background noise in our lives. They sit there quietly, taking up mental bandwidth until we finally deal with them. Once they're resolved, everything feels lighter, even if the problem itself was never all that dramatic to begin with. That realization ties directly back to what we talked about last week with the rolling smooth mindset. The goal isn't to pretend problems don't exist. The goal is to slow down long enough to actually solve them. Evaluate the problem, determine the course, resolve it. Sometimes the solution is simple. Sometimes it takes a few attempts. And sometimes it takes a drive to Golden, Mississippi and 7 tubes of sealant. But eventually you get there. And when you do, the reward isn't just a dry roof. It's a quiet mind. So Birdie Bee is sealed up again. The leak has officially been evicted, and the little tenant that had been living rent-free in my head for 3 weeks has finally moved out. Life on the road keeps rolling. Thanks for riding along with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, you can find more stories, photos, and adventures over at wanderinggypsyrvlife.com. If you're looking for gear that helps keep your rig running right, check out Techno RV through my affiliate link at technorv.com. They really do help you adventure more and worry less. And if you enjoy cowboy storytelling and rodeo history, my good friend Doug Simcox hosts a great podcast called Beyond the Chutes, which is well worth a listen. And if you want to dive deeper into the mindset, you can check out the Rolling Smooth book series on my website. Until next time, keep your rig rolling smooth, keep your coffee hot, and remember, sometimes the best repair you make on the road isn't just the one that fixes your RV. It's the one that quiets your mind. Safe travels, my friends, and remember, not all who wander are lost.